star that lights the road. I take this ride. Just try. I wanna be the only one to make it to the light. I take it to the edge where I live 1,000 lives. Maybe I could be the one right into the setting sun tonight. Just drive.
Here come the lights then. When they go out, we'll be racing at Suzuka. And it's go! Cracking start by Coulthard. Look at him coming through the middle. He's already in front of Sato. Fisichella is in front of Button. That's terrible news for Jenson Button. And Coulthard is having a go as well. Christian Klein is also in the mix. Two cars are off the racetrack. One of them, though, is the local hero Takuma Sato. The other is the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello. That's terrible news for local hero Takuma Sato. But at the front, a poor getaway for Jenson Button. Has that scuppered his plans here for his first Grand Prix?
Be interesting to see if Coulthard made it around the outside of Button in turn one. I'd be surprised if he did. It's a long way round there. Sato with his hand out of the cockpit, but it did look to me as if he just ran wide. But maybe he had got a push somewhere in there, but Button is ahead of Coulthard. It's third and fourth for the Brits. Schumacher leads critically easily from Giancarlo Fisichella. There's Button, Coulthard, Klein, and then Webber, Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Kartikayan for Jordan, Alonso up to P10. Alonso P10?
Michael Schumacher, did you see that pass he put there on Jacques Villeneuve? There he is, Michael Schumacher. There is Villeneuve. A lot of action here. We're looking at the leaders, which is a shame because there's all manner of stuff going on behind, and we should certainly watch the chicane. That's a Barrichello with a puncture, for looks like it, to the left rear tyre. But Alonso has gone from 16th on the grid up to 10th place. Someone's off there, one of the Red Bull cars.
Klein, but he manages to get back on this now instead of gravel there. And look at Alonso, he's just flying through the pack. I think he's up to about 7th already. And a McLaren, Kimi Räikkönen, straight across the chicane. There's a route back on. But look at them, they're streaming past him. Bad mistake there. And there's a car heavily in the barrier on the left-hand side. It's the McLaren, it must be Montoya. Montoya off the road, 2 wheels missing, look. And a big shunt, he'll be okay. Surely the safety car will have to be out there to recover that. It's in a critical position in terms of the exit of the triangle chicane. Safety car is standing by. It must be deployed, surely. And that will help also those coming through from the back, although one of them from the back is heavily in the hedge.
Well, this changes everything. It changes everything from the Constructors' Championship point of view because one of the McLarens is definitely not going to score any points here this afternoon. But also it means, as Martin said, with the safety car standing by but not yet deployed, if they put the safety car out, that will really help Alonso and Räikkönen. It's been deployed now. That's great news also for Rubens Barrichello here, who has come down having a puncture. He makes a pit stop. Looks like other mechanics are ready. McLaren and BAR as well, ready for their drivers.
So many mistakes on the first lap. We've seen exemplary driving this year, brilliant driving by this field of world-class Grand Prix drivers. But I think a lot of these incidents, James, were all about cold tyres and very low pressures after that slow warm-up lap.
Yeah, well, we said it was going to be part inspiration and part improvisation, this Grand Prix. A lot of unknowns, and it seems to have caught a few people out. We will be back in a moment when the safety car comes in. So you can see from the restart, that's what Sato happened to Sato. That's where he tagged Rubens Barrichello. Here it is on board, Martin, from Sato's perspective.
Yes, I think Sato probably ran wide initially, and then Barrichello came steaming in too. Let's have a look. Yes, look, he understeers wide, and as he's busy collecting that up, Barrichello does the same and sideswipes his right front. Sato did not pit, and this is the McLaren of Montoya going in the wall at the very end of the lap, looking, I just caught the end of that, looking as if Villeneuve squeezed him to the outside.
Certainly looked that way. Jacques Villeneuve in the Sauber. That was to squabble over 9th place here. Montoya starting in 18th place on the grid. So you can see they were being very, very aggressive, the three guys who started from the back, Alonso, Raikkonen and Montoya. And, well, that was quite a moment for Juan Montoya on acceleration out of the chicane. This is lap 4 of the Japanese Grand Prix here in Suzuka. We're under a safety car situation because Juan Pablo Montoya has had a heavy accident. You can see at the top right of your screens where you could, a crane just moving that very badly damaged McLaren away from the racetrack. That's why the safety car is out. It appears that, well, let's have a look from the start line what happened to Takuma Sato involved in an incident. This is the view from the back, though. Look at the progress of Alonso and Raikkonen there.
Yes, the Minardi just basically didn't move. Alonso steaming through. He's already up to 8th from a 16th grid slot. And Ralf Schumacher leading behind. And this then is Takuma Sato in the first one. He ran wide himself as he was busy collecting it up. Rubens Barrichello, and here Montoya at the end of the first lap. He'd put himself on the outside of Villeneuve there. Maybe Villeneuve just didn't know, frankly. On board again with Sato into turn 1. Another replay, he understeers wide, so he's already in trouble. And now, look, Barrichello does the same and just whacks his right front. It's Barrichello that took a left rear puncture. He's rejoined the back of the snake behind the safety car, has Barrichello. Sato is currently just 18th, one place ahead of him too. So lots of drama on that first lap. And Louise, amazingly, has already found Juan Pablo Montoya.
Juan Pablo, that was short, not very sweet.
No, it's pretty sad, you know. 3 cars in front of me missed the chicane. I think it was Villeneuve came out in front of me, really slow, and I went to pass him around the outside, and he just pushed me off the circuit.
So just squeezed you off, basically?
Yeah, just, he missed the chicane, came out really slow, blocked me right, so I went left, and he just ran wide into he went into the wide line, and I ran out of road.
It was a very slow formation lap, and you were all starting the race on brand new tyres as well. Do you think that could have caused Jacques any kind of problem that would have led to it?
No, actually, new tyres, you got more grip.
Thanks, Juan Pablo.
Well, I'll tell you what, they've got some history, haven't they, those two as well. That's what's happened off the grid. You can see Alonso up 8 places, Michael Schumacher up 7. Both of these world champions showing their class and cutting through the field. Raikkonen up 5 places from the back. Montero's done a good job as well from the very back of the grid to get himself up into 15th place. Jarno Trulli in the Toyota, you can see, is up from 19th to 17th. Sato and Barrichello, the 2 big losers. Montoya obviously out of the Grand Prix. Just to clear it up, Sato and Barrichello have both been into the pits. Barrichello for that left rear puncture, Sato for, I think, bodywork damage. We didn't see what happened in the refueling sense in terms of whether they've changed their strategy, but certainly those 2 men have been in the pits. So the order at the moment then is Ralf Schumacher the leader, Fisichella second, Button third, 4th David Coulthard, 5th Mark Webber in the Williams, 6th Christian Klien, 7th Michael Schumacher, 8th Fernando Alonso, 9th Jacques Villeneuve, and 10th Pitsonia, with Raikkonen in 12th place. And Ted Kravitz has some news for us.
Yeah, just down at BAR with an update on Takuma Sato. He did damage his front wing in that off at turn 1, so they had to pit him, but cleverly they waited until the safety car was out to pit him. Front wing was damaged, they had changed that. They didn't have to change the tyres, they were okay, but James, they also swapped the fuel strategy. 6 seconds I timed it of fuel going in, so they put him onto a 1-stopper.
The teams will be furiously recalculating now because they're using about half as much fuel as they normally would do. The drivers actually want a faster safety car, but unless you have a racing car, which you've got to be prepared in the same way and be on different types of tyres, I don't know how you could do that. Bernd Mailander, who's driving the safety car, it is a very fast road car, but of course the Formula One car just looks totally pedestrian behind it, and he'll be driving the door handles off that, and very well too. But of course, if you had a racing, a DTM style car, what tyres would you put it on? And you need a crew to run something like that. So, but the drivers really want to be going faster than this to keep their tyre pressures and temperatures up. If Juan Pablo's car had more grip on a new set of tyres, then the other 6 that ran off the road on the first lap clearly didn't, because they were off all over the place, weren't they? They just didn't have the mechanical grip they needed, for example, in turn 1, or to slow down the chicane. At least three driving clean across the AstroTurf at the final chicane, and getting all mixed up on the exit.
There you can see the view from second place, Giancarlo Fisichella. This is certainly good news for his teammate Fernando Alonso, this safety car. It certainly bunches the field up, and particularly with the slowness of this safety car, the Bridgestone tyres don't like it as much as the Michelins. The temperatures and pressures drop, and we've seen time and time again that the Ferraris are vulnerable on a restart. Now that's something Alonso will have to capitalise on. He is right behind Michael Schumacher. As I say, those Bridgestone slow off the on a restart traditionally. So Alonso will be looking, there they are, Alonso and Michael Schumacher. Alonso will be looking to get past him off the restart. But I tell you what, we were talking at the top of this about this is Fisichella's race unless he has a problem, in which case it's probably Button's race. The safety car situation has changed all of that. Alonso now has a great chance of winning this Grand Prix, and so does Kimi Raikkonen, who McLaren knew before the race, and so did Renault, that before qualifying rather, that it was going to rain by the time they were out on track, and they have got a lot of fuel in those cars. The strategy is the best that they could do for the race, and this safety car is absolute gift for them. So we are going to have a very interesting and complex Grand Prix, I think, unfolding. Jensen's chances receding very much, and those of Alonso and particularly Raikkonen looking very good indeed.
I think you're right, it has fundamentally changed the face of this Grand Prix, because we're on lap 6, and we would have expected them to be 20-30 seconds behind if they had been stuck with the midfield runners, and of course they're right up there now. But I think it depends how fast a car, for example Coulthard in 4th, Webber 5th, Klein 6th, how fast the cars they got underneath them, and whether they're going to hold the pack up or be running with the front runners. And well, Alonso had just so much confidence and speed, didn't he, on that first lap? Extraordinary.
The other man who will be smiling is the race leader, Ralf Schumacher. We understand he had a 3-stop fuel load in to go and grab the pole yesterday, and that was meaning he would have to come in around about lap 15 or 16 possibly. This extended safety car period, this is now lap 6 of this Grand Prix, has will allow him to go deeper into the Grand Prix. That means he'll be able to switch onto a 2-stop strategy. So he too becomes something more of a factor than perhaps he would have been, as Montoya's car is driven away from that area. Well, we should be racing again in a lap or two, I think.
Because this is an old-style racetrack, there's no perimeter road like you get with a lot of the new circuits, where the recovery vehicles can quickly get. And you get those caterpillars on. Well, I nearly died underneath one of those in '94. They're horrible things to have in the vicinity of a racetrack, which is why they had to neutralise the race with a safety car situation. But they just don't. It's such a confined area here around this circuit that they just don't have the facilities of somewhere like Shanghai that we're going to next weekend.
So we're under a safety car for those of you just joining us after the accident involving Juan Pablo Montoya in the McLaren Mercedes, which certainly puts a different complexion on the Constructors' Championship battle. 2 points the margin between McLaren and Renault, but we've got 2 Renaults in the field in 2nd and 8th place currently, both of them therefore in the points, and only one McLaren, that's Raikkonen, who is down in 12th place at the moment. So he has got to step up now and score as many points as he possibly can to take this championship fight to China. But certainly both sides, Martin, were saying going into this Grand Prix, a non-finish by one of the 4 cars involved in this battle will mean it almost certainly hands the championship to the other.
It's looking good for Renault, isn't it? They're 2nd and 8th already. Barrichello pits. Clearly they're going to refuel him and hope he'll be getting right up to the back of the pack again before they're released. No doubt about that. So they'll be changing the strategy for Barrichello to try to bring him into play later on in the Grand Prix. It's a no-brainer. He's last anyway, effectively, so he may as well do that. and get himself a heavier fuel load. This has been a long safety car period. It's been now 5 laps of lapping at 2 minutes 37 instead of 1 minute 32. So that's how much slower. They're a full minute a lap slower, and the temperatures and pressures just fall away. Therefore, the ride height falls away as well. The pressure of the tyre is a fundamental part of the ride height of the car and the spring rate of the car, and they start crashing into the ground. They'll be a real handful now for a couple of laps.
Second year in a row that Rubens has had a nightmare here in Suzuka. Last year he qualified outside the top 10, as I said before, got badly held up in the early part of the Grand Prix and eventually retired from it. This year he's already pit stopped twice and is last in this Grand Prix.
We're hearing from Ted that Ferrari may, down in the pit lane, that Ferrari may be concerned about the left rear of Rubens Barrichello car, the one that slapped the right front of Takuma Sato. And well, let's hope it's secure enough. I would imagine they just want to keep having a look at it and checking it. But you would normally, I'd have to say, it would be the right front of Sato that would brake before the left rear of the Ferrari. It just depends on the angle that it made contact.
Ralf Schumacher slows them all down. The safety car will be making his way towards the pit entry now. He's got to try and judge this. This is the fastest part of the racecourse, the point at which the track crosses over, right underneath where they're going now. And now here he goes. Ralf Schumacher hits the gas. They cannot overtake each other until they cross the start-finish line. No one is allowed to pass in the chicane, but it looks to me like Ralph's done a very good restart here. Look at the gap already over Fisichella. But what about Alonso and Michael Schumacher? That's going to be absolutely critical. The battle for 7th place, because that Ferrari will struggle from the restart. And here we go. It's in fact Schumacher attacking Coulthard. Alonso was not close enough, and Schumacher dives down the inside. That's amazing. That really bucks the trend of what we've seen so far.
It's clearly
Christian
past.
Klein, I beg your pardon, he's gone past. So Schumacher up into 6th place, and Alonso now has got to get past Christian Klein.
It was odd. Both Red Bulls seem to be slow to respond to that. I don't know if it's the drivers of the cars or what, but both Coulthard and Klein appeared to drop back a little bit. But Ralph timed it perfectly. Fisichella just about kept him honest, though. Button 4/10 behind at the first sector point. Coulthard 2.2 down, though. So Coulthard, Webber, Klein, Michael Schumacher and Alonso in very, very close company. And we're on the back of that queue with Alonso. Not even full throttle into the hairpin there, as he's just wondering and finding out where the grip is.
Fantastic racing here at Suzuka. Alonso then chasing Klein at the front. Ralf Schumacher still leading. Remind you that he's in the updated Toyota. They've come here this weekend with a new specification car. It's a new chassis, completely new front suspension and aerodynamics, and it's got a lot more front-end grip. That's the reason they brought it. It also lasts longer through a Grand Prix. It's faster over a Grand Prix distance. That's the idea. Mike Gascoigne and his team out in Cologne have worked very, very hard on this car. They're doing a car every two-thirds of a year. Here comes Alonso having a go at Klein around the outside into chicane. No prisoners taken there. He'll have to give the place back to Klein there because he cut the chicane. But Klein takes it back. Well, he will take it back down the straight.
Yeah, Alonso, Klein did the only thing he could, and that's stay to the right-hand side. Now Alonso's going to have him back down the pit straight. And so you can actually say he had a slight advantage by coming from up high there, but he did all the right things, gave the place back and then snatched it straight back again and put himself into play with Michael Schumacher.
Very intelligent driving, very quick thinking from Fernando Alonso, no doubt helped by Pat Simmons and the team there on the Renault timing stand, just letting him know his obligations, but he did it very neatly and tidily and then was able to repass Klein legitimately into turn 1. Alonso then up into 7th place.
Here we go. This is Alonso down the outside. Klein's having none of it. Alonso with not enough front grip, snatches the right front brake. He will now stay to the left-hand side and release Klein inside, but he's got good momentum out there and picks up the slipstream down into turn 1, but he didn't follow it all the way through. But that's how Alonso did it. His brain is switched on all the time, isn't it?
You could see his helmet there. He was looking to the right all the time, looking at where Klein was exactly. He wanted to let him through. No one else, of course. He's not letting anyone else through. And he did it absolutely perfectly. Ralf Schumacher, fastest man on the racetrack at the moment, in the lead. 1.7 seconds now ahead of Giancarlo Fisichella in 2nd place. Button is 3rd, 2.5 seconds behind the leader, with Coulthard 4th. Webber in 5th place for Williams. 6th, Michael Schumacher closing on the Williams. Klein is 7th with Alonso is past Klein. in 7th place, Klein down to 8th, Villeneuve 9th and Pitsonia 10th.
Alonso is just mighty fast. He's closed immediately up to Michael Schumacher. Took a second out of him in the rest of that lap after he'd passed Klein, and just wandering around down the straight, having a look to see where Michael's attention is. And Alonso is absolutely flying. But so is Ralf Schumacher up front. His lead, 2.1 seconds over Fisichella now.
And so is Kimi Raikkonen. He's very quick indeed, and he has just got past Felipe Massa. So Kimi Raikkonen up to 10th place. He's got past Pitsonia as well. Raikkonen's on the move here.
Yeah, it's going to be a mighty fight from midway on in this Grand Prix between the usual suspects and the boys at the front of the field who got the break yesterday and got the jobs done with the difficult conditions. And that...
Webber, I think, is it? Or Pitsonia?
I thought it was Pitsonia,
yeah,
isn't
Pitsonia.
it? Second Degner, Pitsonia off, and he's going to have to get that in reverse if he wants it out there. Went off there in qualifying on the outlap in the first part of Degner. So Pitsonia out then at what was P11.
Yeah, that's let Felipe Massa through up into 11th place, but Alonso is going to have a go at Michael Schumacher fairly soon, I think. Coming down towards 130R, 180 mile an hour corner, and he's trying to line him up for a pass into the chicane. Not quite close enough this time. Obviously, one of the problems you've got with these cars in 2005 is so many aerodynamic devices on the bodywork of these things. You can't really follow another car through a fast corner. And look already how far back Alonso has fallen.
Yeah, you've got to wonder if he's actually got a problem. I think he's got a problem. It's not accelerating. He was very slow through 130R. And look, Alonso then with a problem and just fell back from 130R. I was surprised how much Michael pulled away from him, but then down the pit straight, didn't accelerate at all. And why would that be? He's not letting himself back past Klein again, is he? It just sounded like it was flat though, didn't it? It sounded like the engine wasn't pulling properly rather than anything else.
Well, he seems to have picked the pace up again. That is the Toyota of Jarno Trulli, who started from the back of the grid, having set no time in qualifying. Looks like he's hit someone. Look at the right side of the bodywork, Martin.
Yeah.
At the chicane.
Yeah, big contact by the looks of it. Don't know what's going on with this lot today. They just look like they're not making any allowances for the track conditions and the lack of grip that they're bound to have out there. And well, we'll get a replay of that no doubt anytime soon. It's the final chicane. Who was he running with, Jarno Trulli? Difficult to know now because he's dropped right off the back of the computer, but he was towards the back of the field anyway, but obviously made big contact, so you have to assume somebody else has got some damage too.
Yeah, well, he was certainly in front of Barrichello. Would be around Dornbos and Sato, I believe. But anyway, we haven't got the safety car. Safety car has been stood down.
Alonso, I think Alonso re-let Klein past. I think they had an email onto the pit wall from Charlie Whiting, the race director, to say, hey, you know, you've got to let him go fully ahead. You can't just let him sneak past and re-nail him back again. So now he's having another go at the inside. But Alonso does not have a problem. I was right first time around. He was. I think that there is a communication system there, and now Raikkonen is right up behind him. So I think they've been told, hey, that wasn't quite the way it should be. You've got an unfair advantage there. You've got to let him back through.
Well, that's amazing, isn't it? That's clearly what's happened here. Alonso letting Klein go past. There is a question mark, though, because that's the yellow flag zone that Klein went past. That's where Trulli went off. It was Sato having another incident then. Look, locking his brakes, driving a Honda, driving into the side of a Toyota. In this case, it's the two second string, if you want to call it, in this Grand Prix anyway, drivers, Trulli and Sato. At the front, we've got Toyota leading from Renault and Fisichella and Button in the second Honda at the front. But I'm interested because it looked to me that that's where the yellow flags were, Martin, for the Trulli incident. And that's where Klein repassed Alonso. You're not allowed to overtake on the yellow flags.
Well, I think they've got iron girders on the front suspension of Takuma Sato's car. I cannot believe his front wheel didn't fall off at that. It had 2 or 3 bites at the side of that Toyota, didn't it? And he's already had a whack on the right-hand front corner from the Ferrari. Ted's got more news.
Yeah, I'm down at Renault. Unbelievably, it was some miscommunication, a mix-up between the FIA and Renault. The FIA radioed the Renault pit wall, said, I'm sorry, Alonso's got to let clean past. They said he's already done it. He said, no, let him past. So Alonso let clean past. Then the FIA come on the radio again and say, we've changed our mind.
Well, he's just got past him again, Ted. So I think that's the 3rd time he's passed him today, at least. But this time, hopefully, it's for keeps.
Oh, that'll cause a bit of bruising after the race then if there's been a miscommunication there. But anyway, job done now, and he's on his way again. So Alonso up to 7th again, but they're now 4.5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. But Alonso's got such a car underneath him, he'll just eat into that straight away.
It's a straight fight between these two, and I wouldn't rule either of them out for winning this Grand Prix. But at the moment, you'd have to say the pace of Ralf Schumacher is scintillating. Fastest man on the racetrack at the moment, his last lap, a 1:33.255. There is nothing wrong with this new specification Toyota. In Ralph's hands, it's all working beautifully, and he's 3 seconds clear of the Renault of Giancarlo Fisichella.
Yeah, but this is the bad news, isn't it? Look, if that's the only fuel he's got in the car, Trulli's already out of the race, so it is for Ralph. They're expecting. He's coming in on lap 13, despite 5 laps under the safety car, so we're not seeing a true performance. Fisichella is the true leader of this race, and Button is just 2.2 seconds behind him. You can discount, I think, now Ralph from that in terms of the pace. That's very early, isn't it, with 5 or 6 safety car laps thrown in for good measure.
I'm absolutely amazed by that. That's incredible. Certainly everybody in the paddock was thinking Ralph would come in around about 15 or 16. He hasn't even made it that far, and as you say, we had 5 or 6 laps under the safety car, so clearly Ralf Schumacher running on fumes in qualifying. There's Kimi Raikkonen attacking Christian Klien at the bottom of the screens. There's Jacques Villeneuve going through, so Ralph has dropped in front of Jacques Villeneuve. That means Ralph is in 9th place, and Raikkonen is up into the points for the first time in this Grand Prix. There's Narain Karthikeyan in the Jordan, fitting from 12th place. Clean enough by the Jordan team, he's back out again.
So we're on lap 14. Fisichella 2.4 seconds ahead of Button, who's a further 2.8 ahead of 3rd place man now, David Coulthard. Webber is 4th, Michael Schumacher 5th, Alonso 6th, and just 3.3 seconds behind Michael straight away. He's pulled a second 0.2 out of him, and he's flying, the only man anywhere near the 1:32s. Alonso is the fastest thing out there by a country mile.
Well, his teammate is leading the Grand Prix, Giancarlo Fisichella. It's been a while since he's been challenging for a Grand Prix victory. He won the first Grand Prix of the season in Australia from pole position in another rain-affected qualifying session. Once again, finding the rub of the green going his way in qualifying. Well, has he got the pace to beat Alonso here today? Certainly Alonso looks inspired, the new world champion. There is Jenson Button looking for his first Grand Prix victory. This is his 99th Grand Prix start, and certainly that's quite a magic number. If those of you who are Jackie Stewart fans, that's the total number of races that Jackie did in his whole career. That's the top 6. 7 you can see Raikkonen, 8 Klien, Raikkonen closing on Alonso. A lot of racing still to come here. Involving Montoya and Jacques Villeneuve will be investigated after the race, and I'm also interested in the Sato incident with Trulli. Your view on that, really, because Sato obviously had that collision with Michael Schumacher at the Belgian Grand Prix, which he got a penalty of 10 places back at the next race, so clearly they've got their eye on him as well. Do you feel he was at fault in the Trulli incident?
We only saw it briefly, but it looks as if he thought he'd got the run up the inside, couldn't slow the car down, and Trulli almost didn't know he was there. I think that one will be put down to a racing incident once they've all made their excuses, but we'd need to see it through again, really. But quite clearly the race control incident section is going to be rather busy a bit later this afternoon.
Yeah, that last message telling us that the incident involving Sato and Trulli will be also looked at, so they've got 2 things to consider at the same time. Could be quite a while before they hand out punishments, and we've seen that affect the outcome of Grand Prix in the past? Well, at the front, Fisichella leading Button, Coulthard in third place. This is certainly Red Bull Racing's strongest race for quite a long time. And you have to say Coulthard looked really strong from the get-go on Friday morning. Fernando Alonso, though, fastest man on the track, 1 minute 32.7. First man to break through the 1 minute 33 barrier. And he is now right with Michael Schumacher.
Michael. We wondered quite why he looked so slow through 130R and the final chicane. Then we realised and understood why. But look, he's got so much more speed and grip that he'll be past the Ferrari surely in a flash.
Getting really close, isn't he? Certainly got a quicker car. He was right up behind Michael Schumacher, had that misunderstanding with the FIA where he had to drop back and let Clean through again. Lost about 5 or 6 seconds in the process. Now he's right back with Michael again through 130R. We are 17 laps into an absolutely fantastic Japanese Grand Prix. The big names of Formula 1 started from the back of the grid. This is the world champion trying to pass the former world champion, Fernando Alonso, trying to pass Michael Schumacher. It's a wonderful fight. And, well, Alonso was right with him a few laps ago. Then a misunderstanding between the FIA and the Renault team meant that Alonso had to go back, let Clean repass him. That lost him about 5 or 6 seconds. He's got through all of that phase. He's now right back on the tail of the ex-world champions Ferrari. And meanwhile, right behind them, the fastest man on the track is Kimi Raikkonen in the McLaren, who also started from the back of the grid. We've lost Juan Pablo Montoya to an accident. Pizzonia is out of the spin. Trulli has crashed out as well. It's been a highly eventful first 16 laps, and there's a long way to go yet.
Fernando Alonso's going to find himself in a do-or-be-done position shortly because Raikkonen has suddenly come alive. The only way Alonso's going to get Michael Schumacher around this track is follow him through the 190-mile-an-hour, 130R corner and drill him up the inside into the final chicane. He's struggling to follow closely enough through the final part of Spoon, so he's already a bit down, and he's not as close as he was last lap around. But Alonso will pick up the slipstream of the Ferrari. He's got to keep the throttle pedal nailed to the ground, and he's not close enough this time to have a look at Michael. Nowhere near, in fact. So Alonso really struggled in the Spoon corner that time. Michael went too deep into the chicane, though. Can Alonso punish him for that down into turn one? He just can't get the traction to get near enough to him. He'll close the gap as they head down there. But now he's in that turbulent air situation. And Michael Schumacher could play quite a pivotal role in who wins this Grand Prix today. And I don't think it's going to be Michael Schumacher either.
Isn't this a race lover's heaven? The three best drivers in the world going toe-to-toe around one of its finest racetracks. Schumacher, Alonso, Raikkonen. It's only a battle for fifth place at the moment, but it could be absolutely pivotal to the outcome of this Grand Prix, with the other Renault of Giancarlo Fisichella leading this gang by 15 seconds. And Alonso really does want to find a way past Michael Schumacher. He's clearly got a faster car, as has Kimi Raikkonen, but we are approaching the first round of fuel stops for these guys. Probably sometime. We had a safety car, a couple of safety cars, so they would have extended the window probably by about 3 or 4 laps, 3 laps on the fuel probably. So into the 20s before the first fuel stop. This is lap 18, but it's not that far away. Certainly Alonso will want to pass Schumacher before then.
He's got to stay. There's something flapping around. I don't know if it's a tyre or a piece of tape on the right rear tyre. I don't know if it's a delamination. I don't think so. I think it's just a piece of tape flapping around. We'll have to try and get a closer look. But Alonso's got to stay closer out of second part of Spoon, which he is on this lap. Is he close enough? He's in the turbulent air of Michael. He'll have to drill him right up the inside, but there's not enough space. What is that flapping on the right? We think it's tape. I think it's tape rather than tyre.
Yeah, they put tape over the cracks between the bodywork just for aerodynamic effect, and obviously they make it the same colour as the bodywork. In that case, it'll be blue. Here comes Alonso down to turn one. Schumacher goes defensive. Alonso can't go around the outside there. This is a fantastic scrap here between the old champion and the new.
we've been waiting all year, haven't we? One way or another, with engine changes, 10-place drops, whatever, people being cautious and for the World Championship stakes, and now all the gloves are off. They're going for it full time. Michael Schumacher placing his Ferrari on all the right parts of the racetrack, but they're now lapping slower than the leaders. They're 16 seconds adrift of Fisichella now, who's 4 seconds ahead of Button in second place. Coulthard's going well, lapping at the same pace as the leaders in P3. The Red Bull is hooked up for the Grand Prix.
Certainly Coulthard's strongest race for a very long time. There goes Thiago Monteiro in the Jordan from 12th place. He goes back out on track. He's having a great scrap with his teammate Narain Karthikeyan. Also a great scrap between the two Sauber drivers. Villeneuve at the moment is in front of Massa, 10th and 11th. And they've been scrapping for the last 5 or 6 laps, but we're understandably watching this Schumacher, Alonso, Raikkonen battle. Michael Schumacher, 36 years of age, 7 times a world champion. Fernando Alonso, 24 years of age, 1 time so far a world champion. Can he get in this time? Nice slip.
Michael hit the ground very hard there, James, and I thought he was going to be struggling for grip on the exit of 130R, but Alonso just can't get close enough on the exit of Spoon Corner. A mile earlier is where the damage is being done, and Michael knows exactly how to place his car down into the first corner. Still there in the late 1:33s, and the lead is now buried in the 1:32s. They're 17 seconds adrift. It's what I said about Michael Schumacher having quite a key factor in who's going to win the Grand Prix today, because this is holding up Alonso and Raikkonen badly.
6 times a winner of the Japanese Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher. He's had some big days around this racetrack. World Championships clinched, certainly in 2000, if you remember, and also in 2003, where he limped home in 8th place, but nevertheless clinched his 5th World Championship. Well, here today, he isn't going to be a factor, but he is playing a factor in the outcome, because he's certainly holding up Alonso at the moment. Fisichella leading Button now by 4 seconds. Pit stops are coming around. Coulthard 3rd, Webber 4th for Williams. We haven't seen him all afternoon, but he's having a terrifically strong run as well.
What about that? Renault pitting quite early on. I thought they'd be into the lap 20s, and that's going to put a smile on the face of McLaren, because I'm sure Raikkonen is fueled quite a bit longer than that. We believe it's for Fisichella, the current leader, and then Michael goes to the inside, tries to block the line into 130R.
Oh, my word!
And Alonso having none of it, straight around the outside, and now Raikkonen has got a chance too. Michael had nothing, he had to go defensive, and Alonso just steamed on the racing line, round the total bravery, total confidence in the driver you're going around the outside of, to know he's not going to run your track. That would be the mother and father of all shunts if you connected in the middle of that corner.
180 miles an hour as Fisichella comes out of the pits. 180 miles an hour around the outside of the 130R corner. I've never seen anything like it. Enormous bravery by Alonso. Brilliant driving by Michael Schumacher. Not for both of them to have an enormous aeroplane accident. And now Raikkonen has got to get past as well, because he can see the Renault scampering away. Here it is. Just look at this, and disbelief.
Yeah, Michael then is crimped up on the inside. Nothing he can do. Alonso just nails it and things. I know he'll have to lift. He's got to lift. Therefore, I'm going to stay full throttle, and brilliant bravery and confidence there. But I think you can do that with Michael Schumacher.
The championship, I remind you, is already won. This is just for racing. This is for getting past the other guy. Absolutely tremendous action here at Suzuka. And now what's Raikkonen going to offer us as he tries to get past Schumacher?
So Button leads the Grand Prix then. We're on lap 21. Coulthard second. He's 4.8 seconds adrift. Webber, Alonso and Raikkonen with much more. They've got it's almost like they've got a wet setup on that Ferrari, because he's slow in a straight line. And Raikkonen cannot punish him down into the chicane.
And now he's free of Schumacher. Alonso has set the fastest first and second sectors of anybody in this Grand Prix so far. He is absolutely flying. Look, disappearing into turn 1. A 1:31.599. He's going after the race win here this afternoon. He knows his teammate Fisichella has already made the pit stop. Alonso is seriously going for it here.
I think that's a new lap record around this place. It's certainly best part of 7/10 faster than last year. 1.2 seconds faster than last year's fastest lap, when they were smashing records all the way through the year. So that's a second and a half quicker than anybody else is going at the moment. Alonso on fire.
You can see why the man is world champion, can't you? Phenomenal performance here already. There he is in his Renault, chasing. He's up into 4th place now then. He's 5 seconds behind Mark Webber. There you can see the story as Raikkonen gets right up close into the hairpin behind Michael Schumacher. They're now 15 seconds behind race leader Jenson Button. So Fisichella didn't carry that much fuel in qualifying yesterday, but take nothing away from him. The conditions were difficult for his qualifying lap. It was still a stunning performance. But Coulthard's still out there. His lap yesterday looks absolutely heroic, as does the laps of all these people that are out there now. But the racing is what counts on the Sunday, and anything could happen here.
Well, we've got a Brit 1-2 at the moment. Button from Coulthard. Neither of them have stopped. I think effectively Fisichella is ahead of them. Button pits then on lap 23. Coulthard leads for Red Bull, and Raikkonen cannot clear the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Ted.
Tell you what, Jenson's got half a chance with this. He's just done 2 very good laps in the 33.0. That was quicker than Fisichella. The gap was 1.8. Oh, it's a lot of fuel, though, going in there. What is that? 11.7. Wow. Oh, well, he might not be so close to Fisichella with that as he would have been otherwise.
Alonso pitted too then, but I think it looked to me like the fuel rig didn't go on that easily in the beginning. When we just cut to that picture, Ted, I'm not sure that was all fuel. It just looked like the rig was struggling a bit to get on there. Coulthard from Webber then at the moment. Alonso pitted, so it's Michael Schumacher 3rd, and that is Klein exiting the pits. He was P9.
It's not the first time that Red Bull Racing have led a Grand Prix. David Coulthard led the European Grand Prix, but nevertheless a very competitive outing for the team, and particularly for Coulthard on a track he's always gone very well on. He's worked very hard on his attack to this Grand Prix, particularly the first sector, and certainly when he was paired up with Kimi Raikkonen, he showed him the way. Well, this year Raikkonen is looking pretty strong as well, no doubt about that, but not as yet able to get past Michael Schumacher. That certainly puts that move of Alonso's in context. He knew he was coming in for a fuel stop in a couple of laps, and he still went round the outside of Schumacher into 130R, because he made up a few vital seconds by doing so. Raikkonen just being a little bit more cautious.
Michael was very, very late on the brakes because he had to. Coulthard pits from the lead. Webber pits also from P2. So now this is Michael leads the race then from Kimi Raikkonen. And McLaren must get past the Ferrari to take advantage of their heavier fuel load than the Renaults. Otherwise, they're losing what they carried into this Grand Prix. This is a pivotal part. And look at that. Webber out in front of Coulthard. Bad news there for Red Bull. Webber's had a quicker pit stop as Villeneuve steams up behind them.
That's pretty important for David Coulthard and Mark Webber, because Villeneuve has got further to go in this Grand Prix, so they've managed to get out in front of him. Villeneuve, we believe, carrying the most fuel of anybody into qualifying. Well, the man who qualified in 14th place, Michael Schumacher, leads this Grand Prix at the moment. Kimi Raikkonen, who qualified 17th yesterday, is in 2nd place. What an amazing Grand Prix this is already.
Well, what we know, they knew it was going to rain, these people that were later on in the qualifying session, so they would have fueled accordingly. The weather forecasts were amazingly accurate yesterday, and Ted has further news for us.
Absolutely, Martin, and trouble with Jenson Button's car. You were quite right, it was a long stop, not because of fuel, because the fuel filler cap isn't working. It's broken down. They had to get out a screwdriver and yank it open, and they team telling me that they'll probably have to do the same thing at his next stop. So, well, that might be crucial when it comes to the fight with Fisichella.
Well, he lost 4 seconds as a result of that in that pit stop, and if it happens again, it'll be another 4 probably later on, so that's really hurting Jenson Button's chances of a podium here today, particularly with these guys on this form. Raikkonen on the right, Schumacher on the left. Raikkonen dives down the inside. There's no way through here. This is a single track road all the way up the hill.
Yeah, the problem with turn 1 here is it's just an approach zone to turn 2, so you just steam in there really, virtually no braking. On a qualifying lap, I've seen Schumacher go through there absolutely full throttle in top gear, which blew my mind to watch it. But Raikkonen, he'll never get through there. But once again, he's another driver. He's got to stay close in Spoon to give himself a chance, because Michael's struggling in the second half of the straight, and he's hitting the ground too hard through 130R, but Raikkonen just can't get close enough to do anything about it.
Well, several drivers have led this Grand Prix and have pitted. Fisichella has rejoined in 3rd place at the moment. Ralf Schumacher is 4th. Button is 5th. Mark Webber 6th, who jumped Coulthard in those stops as Raikkonen has a look down the inside. Is he going to have a go? He's thinking about it. It's the battle for the lead here. Neither of these men have made their pit stop yet. Neither has Jacques Villeneuve, who is in 8th place. And there's Juan Pablo Montoya. He crashed out on the first lap as he tried to cut his way through the field from the back of the grid. A collision involving Jacques Villeneuve put him out of the Grand Prix.
Well, what's interesting is that Fisichella has remained ahead of Ralf Schumacher. Remember, Schumacher led this race early on and pitted quite early, but in the pit stops and the intervening laps, Fisichella has taken what is a true lead of this Grand Prix before these two stop. Massa pits. He's, where was he? 10th at the moment. Good scrap going on between Coulthard and the other Sauber, Villeneuve. They were 0.1 apart as they crossed the start-finish line. And Villeneuve yet to stop with a nice light car and fully temperatured and pressured up on the tyres. Schumacher just did his fastest lap of the race, a 32.7. Raikkonen did a 32.8, interestingly. And they're just 7 seconds ahead of Fisichella, who has already pitted, and the Ferrari mechanics we hear are out in the pit lane.
Well, it's a pretty important time in the Grand Prix from Kimi Raikkonen's point of view. He wants a bit of clear air now without Michael Schumacher in front of him, because he wants to be able to rejoin in front of Webber, Coulthard, Villeneuve and Alonso, who are about 20 seconds behind him at the moment. He needs to make a few more seconds before making his own pit stop, and he'll leapfrog all of those guys when he makes his first stop. Michael Schumacher dives in the pits, so does Raikkonen. That's amazing. This is as far as he can go on the fuel. He didn't really want that. It's a pit stop race now between the two teams.
Surely they'll short fill the McLaren to ensure they're out. It's a tricky pit lane, down quite a steep hill. You go across a rain gully and you have to be so careful not to overshoot. They've just got to short fill that McLaren and get him going again. Otherwise, he's away first, and surely he's going to beat Mike. Now he's got a long way to go. Michael's got away first, and well, that is critical for the race. And look, Webber goes through, Coulthard doesn't, so Coulthard's lost another 2 places there, but Alonso was way back there as well, wasn't he? So these two have cleared Alonso.
They have, and I think Alonso passed Villeneuve into turn 1 just as those cars emerged from the pit lane. So that's Alonso up into 7th place then, and making good progress, but Raikkonen, crucially, is in front of him on the racetrack. He was behind him early on. Michael Schumacher was passed by Raikkonen, but now Alonso has been jumped by both of them by staying out longer. That's the top 8 here. What a great Grand Prix. There you can see, outside the points at the moment, Fernando Alonso. Christian Klien, what about him? He started in front of his teammate, David Coulthard. Klien was 4th on the grid and Coulthard 6th. Currently, Coulthard is 7th, Klien 10th. That is all about experience and about the class of David Coulthard. Fantastic performance.
Yeah, but Coulthard's very slow, and so is Klien at this stage of the race. They seem as if once they've made the pit stop, they lose tyre temperature, and they struggle like crazy on the full fuel load, the heavier fuel load, to get back up to any kind of reasonable speed. So Coulthard's now 2 seconds a lap off the pace, 20 seconds off the lead, and that podium slipping away rather quickly.
Well, you know, you could say the same sort of thing about Jenson Button as well. He's a second slower than Giancarlo Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher at the moment. After this, they're carrying roughly the same amount of fuel, aren't they, Martin? He pitted between the two of them, really, and yet he's a second a lap slower. Jacques Villeneuve, the last man, I believe, to make a stop from 9th place. So he did carry an absolutely tremendous amount of fuel. This is lap 28. Long stop as well. Even if you switch that into a 1, it looks like it to me. One stopper for Jacques Villeneuve.
Yeah, could easily go that far now, can't he? So it makes sense for him. That's their only chance of scoring a point, isn't it?
He's done it before, Villeneuve. It's carried a lot of fuel. He doesn't seem to mind what his qualifying position is. As long as he's got the right strategy for the race, he doesn't mind being beaten by his teammate in qualifying. Here's Ralf Schumacher, though. He's having a terrific afternoon, isn't he? Led early on. He's now just 4 seconds behind Fisichella and certainly keeping him honest. He was quicker than him on the last lap. He's quicker than him at the moment on this lap as well. He's closing in slowly on Giancarlo Fisichella on Toyota's home soil. Ralf Schumacher. Last time he won a Grand Prix was France 2003, that very controversial race. And he's diving into the pits a bit early, I would say. He came in on lap 12 first time round. This is lap 29.
It's almost like they're 3, if not 4 stopping. They're really struggling, aren't they? I mean, why are they running so little fuel? It's making no sense at all.
They had the chance to switch to a 2-stop, obviously didn't take it. We are halfway through one of the most thrilling Grand Prix of the 2005 World Championship. Any one of a number of drivers could still win this Grand Prix. It's certainly all been happening here. Sato off the start line colliding with Rubens Barrichello, but a much bigger shunt on the first lap involving Jacques Villeneuve, who appeared to push Juan Montoya certainly quite wide. Montoya lost grip and hit the wall. That brought out a safety car. In the early stages we had Ralf Schumacher leading from Fisichella and Jenson Button third. Fisichella was able to jump Ralf Schumacher in the pit stops. He now leads this Grand Prix. Ralf Schumacher stayed ahead of Jenson Button. Mark Webber's having a strong afternoon in 4th place for Williams, but from the back of the grid, Michael Schumacher, Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso have been mesmerising. At the moment, Schumacher is the front driver of these trio. They're 5th, 6th and 7th. But earlier on, Martin, we saw probably one of the best overtaking manoeuvres I've ever seen, certainly one of the bravest, where Alonso went round the outside of Michael Schumacher into the 180 mile an hour, 130R corner, and is absolutely scintillating.
Yeah, I've seen it happen from the cockpit. Sadly, it was Piquet going around the outside of me when I was in a Brabham, and he was in a Lotus. But you do get pinched. And is this Raikkonen finally getting past? Raikkonen getting past Michael Schumacher. Alonso is just behind them. So a big swap around. Alonso having to pit earlier. He lost out. He was the man at the head of this trio. Now he's at the back of it. Michael Schumacher under siege all day. And with the widest Ferrari you'll ever see, placing it just where he needed to. But every so often they're catching him out, and Raikkonen has done that now, and that is crucial. He can now get away, and Alonso knows he's got to snatch that place from Michael Schumacher immediately to stay in touch. Fisichella leads from Button. Button's slow at this phase of the Grand Prix with a good fuel load on board, and we know he lost time with a sticky fuel flap. There is Sato exiting the pit. But look who's going well behind him. Mark Webber is closing Button down very, very quickly. And he's running P3 at the moment with a solid amount of speed. Michael Schumacher was 4th. It's now Raikkonen. So Schumacher's 5th. Alonso 6th. Coulthard had been passed by Alonso the lap before this. He's 7th. Well, actually, that'll be, 7th at the moment for Coulthard. Ralf Schumacher back to 8th, and he's having another look at Michael now. Surely he's got a chance up the inside of the chicane, and I thought he might duck up there early, but it'll be a bit slippery in there today, as we saw on the first lap.
Well, he's got it all to do again, has Alonso. This is a complete reversal of what happened before. Alonso was trying to pass Michael Schumacher with Raikkonen behind him. Now Raikkonen has got past Schumacher, or broken free already. Alonso has got to catch him up. He's got to try and not lose too much time to Raikkonen here. There's been a reversal here. It's gone in Raikkonen's favour. That's certainly not been the story of the 2005 championship. Here's a replay of Raikkonen going past Michael Schumacher.
Well, he got so much momentum, look. Finally, he could pinch Michael to the apex, and look at that lovely feeling of slipstream. It's like you get another gear. Somebody's thrown another cylinder behind you. Off he goes. Look how calm it is behind the wheel. And he knows now he can just sweep in on the racing line, and Michael will have to yield. But Schumacher valiantly fighting that Ferrari today, but he's under pressure, isn't he? Fisichella leads Button by 13.8 seconds now. Button still buried in the 1 minute 34s. Webber third. Raikkonen is flying, just 17.5 seconds off the lead. Raikkonen, having now cleared that Ferrari, could still win this Grand Prix.
Oh, I think he very much could win this Grand Prix. Alonso knows that, and he wants to be the one that wins it too. He's got to get past Michael Schumacher, because he is now 20 seconds behind his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella leading this Grand Prix, and that's basically a pit stop in Fisichella's pocket. So to have a chance of winning this, Alonso has got to get past Michael Schumacher very soon indeed. You can see Raikkonen driving away from them. Raikkonen now 3 seconds clear of Schumacher.
It looks from that camera angle, doesn't it? He should just slip up the inside of him, but Michael is the last of the late breakers in there, and he was managing to hold off both of the young chargers. But Ralf Schumacher pitted it for his second time in the lap, led the race, remember, from pole. He's on a rather strange fuel strategy, running the Toyota Light all day, it seems. He's now back in 8th place, having made 2 stops in the first 28 laps for fuel.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing we were saying, that the safety cars actually played into his hands. If he'd wanted to switch into a 2-stop strategy, he could have done that. The penalty of carrying a light fuel load at the start seemed to have been negated by the safety car, but well, it seems that Toyota is sticking with the plan and keeping a 3-stop strategy, but it doesn't look as though it's going to help him here today. And well, I'm sure there'll be a good reason why. Well, at the moment, the question you'll all be asking is, how much time is Alonso losing here to Kimi Raikkonen? I can tell you, Raikkonen's last lap of 33.3, Alonso's at 34.9. He is losing 1.6 seconds a lap to Raikkonen while he's stuck behind Schumacher.
2 mistakes in 3 corners for Fernando Alonso. He's getting a bit ragged and frustrated there now, and he'll be somewhat confused, I think, that of course he pitted earlier, they ran longer, but I think he'll be very surprised when he saw them come out of the pit lane quite a long way in front of him, where those positions got swapped around. But this is where he's faster than Michael. Michael's got obviously carrying more wing or something, and then he's in the dirty, turbulent air at 180 odd miles an hour. Now he's got to slip up the inside.
Go on,
surely.
go on.
Oh, and Michael has gone very deep again. Can Fernando get a cleaner run? Because Michael's got to turn harder right now as they come onto the pit straight. Fernando's got a much better chance this time of getting down, doing a Raikkonen, getting down the outside, and he's just got to storm in, don't lift off the throttle, sweep in and steal the racing line. Schumacher had no defence there. He got out of line at the top of the hill, therefore you turn harder right into the pit straight, you scrub some speed off, and you get mullered down the outside.
Now, I'd like to see a replay of that from the chicane right the way through to the end, because it looked to me like he thought that one through. He made Schumacher get himself into an awkward position. Carter Cahan there, you can see, a lapped car. He's going to get out of the way, hopefully, of Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher. But it seemed to me, Martin, he put Schumacher into that position in the chicane, knowing that he would have him into turn 1. So he wasn't trying to get him in the chicane, he was trying to get him at turn 1.
Could well be the case, certainly a tactical move there. But yeah, he didn't really go for goal, did he, into the chicane, but he certainly made Michael brake too late, and that's what put him out of position all the way down then into turn 1.
Thinking his way through then, Fernando Alonso. Be interesting to hear what he has to say about that afterwards. He is now free of Schumacher. Where is Raikkonen relative to Fernando Alonso? Answer, he is about 5.5 seconds up the road from him now. So we're going to see an inspired battle, I think, between these two drivers. Both of them can still win this Grand Prix. Raikkonen is 17 seconds behind this man, race leader Giancarlo Fisichella in the Renault. Here's another look, but really the pass was made, or it was set up at the chicane. That's where it was executed, but it was set up at the chicane. And they loved that. Second, third and fourth on the racetrack. Jenson Button, Mark Webber, Kimi Raikkonen. Lapping, well, Button in the low 134s, Webber in the high 133s. Raikkonen, before he caught them, in the low 133s. He has a faster car under him here, but not by an enormous amount, so it's going to be tricky for him to get past these two. But certainly if he wants to win the Grand Prix, he needs to do it. Giancarlo Fisichella, though, isn't really getting away at the front. He's lapping in the mid to high 133s as well. So Raikkonen Needs to pick his moment here.
This is going to allow Alonso straight back up behind them, and just the sort of breathing space Alonso needs now, while Raikkonen finds his way. A lot of people just clouting that inside curve of Degner 1. Button did it then, and yeah, Alonso will join this merry band very shortly. Running wide there for Kimi, and just losing himself a good half, 3/4 of a second, and that's the sort of thing he just does not need to do. He needs to be up there ready to punish any mistakes from Webber.
Certainly pretty close to each other on the racetrack. Massa has got in front of Villeneuve in the battle of the Sauber drivers. Barrichello made no real impression on this Grand Prix. You can see he's made 3 stops already, but at least one of those was for damage when he hit Takuma Sato at the start of the Grand Prix. Lap 36 of the 53-lap Japanese Grand Prix, and Christian Alba's car is on fire in the pit lane. You can see everybody diving in, the Japanese marshals trying to help out as well, but certainly all the mechanics well prepared. Lots of instructions and orders going on. Alba's able to get out of the car. That's the first pit fire we've seen for a while. Meanwhile, at the front of this Grand Prix, Giancarlo Fisichella is leading Jenson Button by 17 seconds. There's really any one of 3 men can win this Grand Prix. Fisichella in the Renault, Raikkonen in the McLaren, who started from the very back of the grid, is now in 4th place. But Fernando Alonso at the moment looks the faster man, because Raikkonen's held up behind Mark Webber, who's in 3rd place. There you can see it. And at the moment, Alonso is taking about 2.5 seconds a lap out of Raikkonen. It's very close between the 2 men who've contended the World Championship. A lot of mess there in the pit lane, but Martin, this is an absolute screamer of a Grand Prix. Who's your money on?
Well, at the moment, Fisichella, I think, it depends how long it takes Raikkonen and Alonso. Look at Alonso just cruising straight up to the back of the pack. It depends how long they're stuck behind Button and Webber, because Fisichella's lead was 17 seconds. He's in the 132s. The pair behind him are in the 133s and 34s, and Alonso pits. That's a smart move, I think, because he was about to lose a bundle of time. Whether he's out of fuel or whether that's a tactical move, I don't know. But if there's good space, oh, there goes Michael Schumacher. He's got to pass him again, surely, after this stop. Amazing.
Well, he's pretty much on target. Maybe they've brought him in slightly early so he doesn't lose any time. Certainly, Raikkonen's strategy is being a little bit compromised by being tucked up behind Button and Webber, whereas Alonso's lost no time really there, so he will have to push on now. If Raikkonen can get clear of these 2 and get some clear air, then he'll be in clover. But, well, last time round, Raikkonen pitted 4 laps after Alonso, but he took on a little bit more fuel, so he'll probably come in, I would think, 5 or 6 laps from now, Martin.
Well, I wonder if McLaren will cover that Renault pit stop by pitting Raikkonen, because he's clearly losing time, isn't he? And he doesn't look in danger of passing this pair in a hurry. So McLaren might be feverishly working out, do we have to cover off that Renault stop?
Certainly would be a smart move. If he was to come in now, he would be able to get back out again in front of Fernando Alonso, who's got a heavy car. And that would certainly appear to be a good idea. Alonso was getting quite close to the back of Raikkonen. He's about 1.5 seconds behind him, so it would be pretty close. You'd have to have very good in-laps and out-laps for Raikkonen, but it might be a good thing to do. Here we go then, looking at it on board from the BAR Honda of Jenson Button. The big news this weekend, Honda have acquired now all of the BAR team. They were 45% shareholders, but in a deal announced on Tuesday here in Tokyo, they will take over at the end of this season ownership of this team. They're going to invest more money, and basically their stated aim is to take Jenson Button to the World Championship sometime in the next 5 years. So a huge boost for Jenson Button, coming on the back of him doing a deal to get free of his Williams contract and stay at the Honda team for the next 4 or 5 years. I understand the team will be called Honda as of January the 1st next year. and that's terrific news for British motorsport.
This is Fisichella's race now, providing he doesn't have any problems. They're too far behind. They're 20 seconds adrift, and still Raikkonen hasn't cleared Button and Webber. And I think this the last 2 or 3 laps have pretty much put the game into Fisichella's hands. Louise has found Jarno Trulli.
Well, Jarno, what are you going to say about that one?
I think we have a dangerous person on the track. It's very clear from a few years. He's just causing a lot of problem, and we have to stop it. The federation has to take action.
Do you feel he's just trying to put on an impressive display in front of his home crowd?
He tried to do a maneuver which absolutely was impossible, so I don't know what he's thinking when he's driving.
You going to go and talk to him about this?
There's no point, because he keeps doing it. So it means that he won't learn, and he won't be able to understand it.
Well, they're talking about Takuma Sato. He drove into the side of Jarno Trulli at the chicane earlier on in the Grand Prix, taking Trulli out of the race. And here you can see Fisichella, the leader, rejoining behind Kimi Raikkonen. So Fisichella slots back in 4th place, but Raikkonen has to stop again, and so do the 2 cars in front of him. There you can see the schematic. And, well, as you said, Martin, this certainly looks good for Fisichella, unless he has some sort of problem now, because Raikkonen has just not had the opportunity to make up the time.
No, Alba's amazing. He's back out in that Minardi that we saw on fire. He's 17, 3 retirements. Pizzonia spun off. Trulli had that incident with Sato, and he caught a brief glimpse of it, but Sato was steaming up the inside of him, and obviously Trulli felt that was another banzai move that was unreasonable. And Montoya running around the outside at the end of the first lap. It was the first retirement of the day, when he felt Villeneuve didn't leave him any space. So he was straight out of the Grand Prix. Fisichella has dropped back to 4th place, so Button leads the Grand Prix for the 2nd time today.
Well, Raikkonen is racing with Fernando Alonso. The pair of them have come through from the back of the field, and Alonso is 42 seconds behind, was 42 seconds behind Fisichella before Fisichella made that stop. It takes 22 seconds to make a pit stop here, so if Raikkonen were to come in soon, he would rejoin a couple of seconds in front of Alonso. So he's not making hay with a low fuel load because he's stuck behind Webber and Button, but neither is Alonso at the moment able to use the sort of pace, show us the sort of pace he's need in order to be able to get past Raikkonen.
Yeah, you're right. Raikkonen's doing the mid-33s, Alonso a 33.8 with the heavier fuel load, so he's not going to clear him at this stage. So at the moment, it's a very, very big fight for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, I think, at the end of this Grand Prix. Louise has been down to Minardi.
Yeah, I'm down here at the moment. I've just had a word with Richard Baxter, the man on the who actually puts the fuel hose onto the car. Same man who put the fuel hose onto the car at Monza a couple of years ago when the team had a fire with Gian Maria Bruni, and it was a very similar problem that caused it. Basically, there was fuel flowing from the nozzle before it was actually connected to the car. Obviously, something which is not supposed to happen. That fuel stripped down onto the exhaust and caused the fire. The good news is, though, that nobody hurt down here. The car's been cleaned up and Albers is back out on track.
Thank you for that, Louise Goodman, down in the pits. And, well, Jenson Button leading this Grand Prix for the 2nd time here, but without really a chance of winning it. Mark Webber having his strongest drive, I think, pretty much of the season, actually. He drove well in Monaco and got a podium there, his first podium in Formula One. Probably feels he should have been 2nd on the day, but the pit strategy meant that teammate Nick Heidfeld in fact finished 2nd and Webber was 3rd, but since then this is definitely Webber's strongest drive. Raikkonen is 3rd, you can see right behind him. Fisichella, having made his final stop this afternoon, is just 3.5 seconds behind them. Michael Schumacher is 5th. He has yet to make his 2nd stop. So has David Coulthard, who's also had a very strong weekend here for Red Bull Racing, in 6th place. Ralf Schumacher, he's got to make one more stop as well in the Toyota. He's in 7th. Fernando Alonso, well, he's pushing as hard as he can. He's just come in for a fuel stop. He's down in 8th place. He should leapfrog Ralf Schumacher and David Coulthard when they make their stops, and Michael Schumacher as well. So that'll put, well, it's going to be very close at the finish between Raikkonen, Fisichella and Alonso.
Fisichella's had a poor OLAP, a 1:34.7, so he'll need to pick that pace up. And then the Grand Prix, I still believe, very much in his pocket. The huge fight then is Button, Webber, Raikkonen, Michael Schumacher and Alonso for what I think will be 2nd through 6th. I think they should be quite close together at the end of this Grand Prix. 3 of them are already.
Certainly been a gripper, the BAR Honda team. come out, ready for a pit stop. I imagine that's probably for Jenson Button. He pitted first time round on lap 22. He had a sticking fuel sticking fuel valve, I should say, and the team expected to have the same problem again. So we'll have to watch this pit stop quite closely. Jenson doesn't want to lose too much time, otherwise he will lose the place to Mark Webber.
It was the flap, wasn't it? Didn't Ted say? I thought when they put the speed limiter on, the flap automatically comes up, and I got the impression that that didn't happen on. They had to sort of jemmy it open when he got in to the pit lane. Jenson goes right into the pit lane. We'll keep an eye on it. We're on board with him. Let's hope we stay that way, although we won't see the fuel flap from there. Yeah, it's up. It's up. No problem at all. And Williams have covered that off as well with a Webber pit stop. So it's a straight fight between the two teams then. The two teams that have been fighting hard over Jenson Button services for the last 2 years, basically. And Webber's away fastest. Webber's away first, and he's going to take it. And he's going to take it. So that's amazing. Excellent pit work there from Williams. That's the second car they've cleared for him today. They cleared Coulthard's Red Bull earlier on, and Jenson will be gutted to see that.
Especially seeing as it appears the fuel flap was open for Jenson Button. Disappointment in the BAR Honda garage, but fantastic pit work, as you say, by the Williams mechanics. First time round they got him to leapfrog Coulthard in a straight fight in the pits, and second time round he leapfrogs Jenson Button. So Webber in front of Button. Kimi Räikkönen leads this Grand Prix then, but he has yet to make a second stop. Giancarlo Fisichella is in second place. Michael Schumacher is in third place. David Coulthard as well. And how long before Räikkönen comes in for his stop? He has got 5 seconds now over Fisichella, but those laps lost behind Webber and Button have certainly cost Räikkönen the chance of winning this Grand Prix. It would have been very interesting to see what would have happened if he'd been able to clear those two.
I think Räikkönen's going to end up in front of that little lot in P2. He's on his fastest lap of the race now, where he's got to make hay, because it was amazing to see Alonso right up behind Webber and Button too. So that gives you an indication. It's a 1:31.9 for Kimi Räikkönen. That's a fast lap. That's going to give him P2, I believe, when he has after he's had his stop. Ted's got some news on Räikkönen.
Yeah, well, no, actually, down at Williams, big high fives as Michael Schumacher pits. High fives and smiles at Williams, beating Jenson Button out of the pits, considering what's happened all this year. But also on Alonso, Martin, that was a planned stop for Fernando Alonso. He had to come in there, but it's worked out quite well with them, with Räikkönen, even though he's up against them now.
Some not a great deal of rubber on the inside of the front tyres of the Ferrari there. They run about 3 degrees of front camber. The top of the tyre leans in, so you tend to wear the inside of the tyre out, and certainly the Ferraris look like they're struggling on that at the moment. So Räikkönen was leading by 7.2 seconds. Fisichella did a 1:34.0. He's going to have to pick that pace up if he wants this Grand Prix. I know there's only a bit more than that to go. Now, Fisichella will get the hurry-up sign very soon, because he's not lapping fast enough with the pace this little man's running at now.
Yep, certainly he's taking over 2 seconds a lap out of him. It's now 7.2 the gap. You need 22 seconds to make a pit stop here and rejoin in front, and Räikkönen's going to have to pit sometime in the next 2 or 3 laps, I reckon, so he's probably not going to have quite enough time. But that's not to say that once he rejoins the racetrack in the closing stage of this Grand Prix, he isn't going to be able to close up to Fisichella and attack him. So we could well have a grandstand finish here at Suzuka to this Grand Prix. Certainly Kimi Räikkönen has been held up a great deal during the course of this Grand Prix by all kinds of people. We've seen some spectacular overtaking on a track that most people consider it's very difficult to overtake at, and much of the overtaking has not taken place where the obvious spot into the chicane. It's taken place all over the place. But here's Fisichella, pressure on him now. 8.7 seconds the gap. It's growing all the time. Räikkönen really pushing hard. Coulthard third, but he's yet to make another stop. So has Ralf Schumacher, who's in 4th place. Webber has made his second and final stop. So has Alonso, who's passed Jenson Button. We haven't seen it, but Alonso has just got past Jenson Button out there on the racetrack. He's in 6th place. Button then having all kinds of problems after his second fuel stop, dropping down into 7th place. So he's lost 2 places now, Jenson Button. But at least he got back out in front of Michael Schumacher. Massa 9th, Klein 10th.
Another fastest first sector for Räikkönen then, and I'm sure they're telling Fisichella to get on with it now. He's 8.7 seconds behind. Raikkonen yet to stop, as is Coulthard in third place.
Well, I reckon Raikkonen will be okay, because if he makes a stop soon, he'll come out around about Ralf Schumacher, who's yet to make another stop, and David Coulthard, who's in front of him in third place, who also has yet to make another stop. So it's looking good for the moment for Raikkonen, pushing hard, now 10.5 seconds clear of Giancarlo Fisichella. Another new fastest lap, a 1:31.540, 1.2 seconds quicker than last year's fastest lap. Into the pits comes Ralf Schumacher. That's exactly what the McLaren team wanted to see, and David Coulthard as well. Third and fourth place men. Where will they rejoin?
I think it's looking like a P7 and P8 for those two later on. But, well, I'd given the race to Fisichella, but he's just got to pick his speed up. He's going too slowly now. And Kimi obviously has been told, if you push hard, you can win this race, Kimi. And is he flying? Another fastest first sector for him on this lap, having set a new lap record on the previous tour. Raikkonen now the main man.
Well, the strategy is certainly working out in Raikkonen's favour vis-a-vis Fernando Alonso. He's come from behind him. Alonso was extremely aggressive and extremely fast in the early stages, but well, it seems that Raikkonen is going to be certainly well up the road of Alonso when he comes out from this pit stop. So there's Kimi Raikkonen. The McLaren mechanics are waiting for him. We're riding on board as he comes down the pit lane. Here he goes. Race leader. This will hand the lead back to Giancarlo Fisichella, but then we will have a real run to the finish. In he comes then. Inspecting the tyres, clearing the radiators. Well, he wants to get on with that, doesn't he? Pushing back out again. There's Fisichella. He takes the lead back again, and that is the margin. And that, with 8 laps to go, that's what Raikkonen has to close up now. Fisichella lapping in the low 1:33s. It'll be difficult for Raikkonen to go substantially faster than that unless he's feeling completely inspired. But nevertheless, I wouldn't put anything past Kimi Raikkonen. Just 8 laps to go in the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, the penultimate round of the 2005 Formula One World Championship. We're about 250, 300 miles from Tokyo, only an hour and a half on one of the miraculous bullet trains that they have in this country. And what a Grand Prix we are seeing. Kimi Raikkonen has just made a pit stop. He is racing against Giancarlo Fisichella for the victory. Fisichella then is back into the lead. Raikkonen is second. Mark Webber, having a fantastic drive this afternoon, is in third place. Alonso has leapfrogged Button into fourth. Button then down into fifth place. Coulthard has got himself in front of Michael Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher. So the Red Bull Racing team having a terrific afternoon, and Coulthard, clearly inspired here, is in sixth place. Michael Schumacher seventh, ahead of his brother in eighth place. And Raikkonen is just 5 seconds behind Fisichella, having started from the back of the grid here this afternoon. Raikkonen was 17th, Fisichella was third on the grid. It's been an unbelievable Grand Prix with overtaking action throughout the field. We've had a number of different leaders of this. At several stages, the big names have been held up behind slower traffic. It's cost them time, but it's been absolutely wonderful entertainment. Alonso has gone round the outside of Michael Schumacher to take a pass in the 130R corner. But anyway, that is the order in the closing stage of this Grand Prix, and I wouldn't put any money against Raikkonen having a go at Fisichella here.
He's catching him 4 tenths already in the first sector. Raikkonen was faster in the middle sector on his outlap by 7 tenths faster than Fisichella on his outlap. He's absolutely on fire, and Fisichella's really been sleeping a little bit, I think. He had such a cushion, but he's been so slow after his final stop. It's all just ebbed away. And now Raikkonen, you have to say, amazingly, Raikkonen looks favourite for this Grand Prix. Alonso attacking Webber for the final podium slot. Button has slipped down to fifth, as you say. Coulthard passing Michael Schumacher up to sixth. So we're looking at a fifth and sixth for the Brits. But right now, it's all about how quickly will Raikkonen catch Fisichella and what can he do about it when he gets there? He is a second up in the first 2 sectors of this current lap, and he's another 0.2 up in the final sector too. So that's 1.2 in 1 lap alone. The gap down to just 4.3 seconds now.
Absolutely scintillating end to this amazing Japanese Grand Prix. Alonso wants to get on the podium as well. He's lining up Mark Webber. There's an awful lot still to play for here. And just to remind you, not that long ago, we were talking about Fisichella enjoying a 20-second lead over Kimi Räikkönen. Räikkönen stayed out longer on his strategy than Fisichella. As you say, Martin, Fisichella was a little bit off the pace, having made that fuel stop for whatever reason. Maybe it's the car, maybe it's him. But now it's going to be an absolutely scintillating finish, and Ted Kravitz is standing by in the Renault garage.
Yeah, and they're nervously, frantically talking to Fisichella on the radio, his engineer Alan Permain, telling him to push as hard as he possibly can. They've given him some more engine revs to try and just keep him ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Meantime, absolutely assured calm down here at the McLaren garage, but crucial for Renault, James, because Alonso cannot seem to pass Webber.
Well, we'll wait and see on that one, Ted, but let me remind you of the context of this battle, because the Constructors' Championship, the only thing left to play for in this World Championship, because obviously, as we know, Alonso has already wrapped up the driver's title. Well, Renault trail McLaren here by 2 points. So if Fisichella's leading this Grand Prix, that's 10 points. Räikkönen second, that's 8. Alonso is 4th, that is 5 points. But all of that could really change here if they can get past each other. If Räikkönen, who's now only 3 seconds behind Giancarlo Fisichella, can close up and pass. If Alonso, who's less than a second behind Mark Webber, can pick up an extra point here or there, it could make all the difference in the Constructors' Championship, particularly as Montoya will score nothing. He's out of the race. Look at this, though. Alonso's going for it down the inside, on the grass, 2 wheels. Fernando Alonso, what a brilliant move once again. Another fantastic pass.
Stunning. Alonso is totally fearless today. He got a better run out of the chicane, picked up the slipstream. Webber thought he'd covered him off, so Alonso took a little bit of grass to give himself the extra space he needed. He's up to P3, but Fisichella can't respond. He's 0.6 slower in the first sector on this current lap than Räikkönen. Räikkönen is just reeling him in. Fisichella seems like he mentally had this, was standing on the top step of the podium and now just cannot respond. But look at this from Fernando Alonso. Incredible bravery. Reminded me of when Michael Schumacher put him on the grass going down to Stowe, and he just hung on in there, but didn't make the pass on that occasion. But did he get through this time? It's been a great drive from Webber too. But look, there is Fisichella, and now there is the flying Räikkönen. And as soon as Fisichella starts to see him in his mirrors, then he's under extra pressure.
He certainly is. 5 to go here then. 4 at the end of this lap. They're going to cross the line any time now. 4 laps to go under the view of that huge Ferris wheel, the giant funfair behind this racetrack here at Suzuka, designed back in the early 1960s, home to the Japanese Grand Prix since 1987. It's seen some fantastic races, but I can't think of any better than this one. 53 laps of this Grand Prix have been scintillating really from start to finish. Fisichella leading Räikkönen by just 1.8 seconds, and look at how he's eaten into his lead. Over a second a lap for the last 3 laps. And what amazing bravery by Fernando Alonso. He's already wrapped up the Drivers' Championship, and yet he's still taking huge risks for a podium finish here, for another point for his team in the Constructors' Championship. What commitment, what bravery.
Well, when Kimi gets there, and this back marker, the Minardi, might just play into this equation here, but when Kimi arrives, he's got to just drill him straight away. If he ends up settling in behind him and getting in that turbulent air, he's going to struggle. There's not enough time left. But look, Fisichella's got to clear the Minardi down the back straight here. He must, and he will, I think, get past the Minardi. And if he has to hesitate on the way into 130R, Räikkönen's going to be right with him. And look, the Minardi moves to the left and blocks Fisichella, and he's also going to block Räikkönen on the exit of 130R. But Räikkönen, the net winner there, and Fisichella almost off the racetrack as he went to the inside to pass the Minardi, and the Minardi decided to yield at that time, and that's played beautifully into Kimi Räikkönen's hands.
Certainly has. Down the pit straight then with just 3 laps to go. Raikkonen has taken 1.3 seconds on that lap out of Giancarlo Fisichella, and now the 20-second lead of a few laps ago is down to just half a second, 2 car lengths. And, well, you'd have to say that Kimi Raikkonen is looking very, very good here. When and where will he attack Giancarlo Fisichella, who's just struggling with the pace, frankly? 1:33.717 is 0.6 of a lap slower than his teammate Alonso's doing at this point in the Grand Prix. Clearly, Fisichella perhaps not quite happy with the tyres, not quite happy with something in the balance of the car. It's not really under him in the way that the McLaren is under Kimi Raikkonen here today. And the 2 Renaults are going to be on the podium with the McLaren, but what will the order be?
We've got Coulthard catching Button as well quite quickly for 5th and 6th. It's all going on down the field. But now Kimi is in that dirty air, and you can see the car moving around in Spoon Corner. But look, he should get a nice tow from this position and just haul himself nicely up to the back of the Renault, looking at 130R, and the McLaren is mighty. Look at the slipstream he's getting down there. The Renault hitting the ground hard, and what do you do? What are you going so defensive for? That wasn't necessary at all. And there was Fisichella defending some fresh air.
It was interesting though, did you see Fisichella on the left? His throttle was flat through 130R corner. Raikkonen lifted, but he's coming down the inside now. He's lining him up for trying to pass down the outside into the first corner. Well, he's just letting him know he's there. I think Fisichella's well aware of that. Very interesting to compare how they're working the throttle and the brake, these two. Fisichella lifting off earlier than Raikkonen into turn 3. You see, up the sequence of up the hill. Only 1 line through here, no chance of passing through here. But Raikkonen will be very keen to get as close as he can through the spoon curve, turns 13 and 14, in order to do what he did last time, get really good tow out of the straight and into 130R corner, the closing stage of this lap.
Oh, Fisichella mustn't pull that trick again. If he's got to take the better line through the chicane, otherwise Raikkonen's going to have him down into turn 1. But he obviously was expecting an attack, but clearly Raikkonen was way too far behind. And that's the concertina effect of a hairpin you're seeing there, as the driver in front is always going to be on the throttle a car length earlier, and with the amount of power these things have got, begins to pull away. Look at Raikkonen, he's just all over him like a rash. He's got so much more grip and balance and confidence. But this is the exit of Spoon again then, and Fisichella up the inside. He's now moved to the outside, the racing line, and Raikkonen is absolutely hauling him in. And again, he goes defensive when he doesn't need to. It puts him out of shape then for the exit then, as we saw earlier on. Has he got enough traction to keep the McLaren behind him? He's really left himself to be a sitting target now. He'll have to go defensive down the inside. He'll have to go tighter than that. Oh, and they nearly touched. Can Raikkonen sweep in? Yes, he can. Brilliant.
What a brilliant move! Side by side down the straight. Grand Prix racing at its absolute finest. Kimi Raikkonen sweeps through to take the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. He started from 17th place. Let's enjoy this again.
There, and he moves to the right to force him to the left-hand side, but there's so much more grip there, and then it's Fisichella facing the tighter line into the corner. But again, he got it all wrong at the top chicane by just compromising his exit. And then, as I said, he was always going to be a sitting target down the pit straight. Brilliant stuff from Raikkonen.
Absolutely sensational. Kimi Raikkonen then heading for his 10th Grand Prix victory, his 7th of this season. And what a year he has had. And what an amazing Japanese Grand Prix he has had as well. Fighting his way through. It seemed as though he lost his chance when he got tucked up behind Jenson Button and Mark Webber, and Fisichella had a 20-second advantage over him, but he's managed to whittle it down. Brilliant strategy this afternoon by the McLaren team. And here he comes then. Takuma Sato there has caused a few problems this afternoon, but not as Raikkonen sweeps through to lap him. And one of the most dramatic Grand Prix in living memory comes to a close with Kimi Raikkonen, the winner. Absolutely sensational performance. In second place will be Giancarlo Fisichella. Raikkonen loves that. And in third place, Fernando Alonso. Another good shout for drive of the day for Mark Webber. We haven't seen much of him, but fourth place for him in the Williams. Jenson Button, the early promise, didn't work out for him. He's going to come through in 5th, Coulthard 6th, Michael Schumacher 7th, and Ralf Schumacher, the pole sitter here for Toyota, ending up in 8th place. I mean, I would hate to be you and have to make the decision for driver of the day, because we have seen some of the finest driving in many years. Raikkonen, outstanding. Alonso, outstandingly brave. Webber, fantastic to get that car up to that place in the grid. Button didn't quite have it, the pace when he needed it from the BAR. Coulthard scintillating from him as well. Who's it going to?
Well, this is year 9. And I have to say, this is one of the most enjoyable races that I've certainly commentated on. Stunning driving, all sorts of drama and action, but you can only give it surely to this man, Raikkonen. He got the job done all the way through. He was compromised earlier on in the day, kept his nose clean. I mean, Alonso's 2 overtakes were sensational, but he's ended up 17.5 seconds adrift of them. He's behind Raikkonen. So for me, Raikkonen just edges it, but sensational, brilliant skills. What a pleasure it's been to watch that race.
An absolute pleasure, especially when you consider that Raikkonen actually started behind Fernando Alonso. They were 16th and 17th on the grid, and they end up 1st and 3rd. Raikkonen 1st place, Alonso in 3rd, and Fisichella, who started 3rd on the grid, finishes in 2nd place in the Renault. So 10 points for McLaren, whilst the Renault team take 14, and that means there's still, I believe, 2 points between them going into the final Grand Prix. Wait for the tables to come up, but my basic maths in my head seems to suggest that that's the situation. So it's basically Montoya's crash has been more or less negated by the amazing performance of Kimi Raikkonen. There you can see then the top 10. Klian, having qualified in 4th place, finishing out of the points, and just showing again the value of experience. David Coulthard finishing 20 seconds ahead of his teammate, and a really fantastic performance by David Coulthard.
Well done, gentlemen. And now,
Ron Dennis Scarpers. Raikkonen has a big slug at the end of a wonderful Grand Prix. Without exaggeration, this was a classic. It was the day when the runner-up in the World Championship showed that he is the man.
Watch all 6 Sky Sports channels on your mobile and online.